We are recording, and so we'll have the recording available. And hopefully, we'll get Neri put in a ticket. So, hopefully, we will get some technical support and get that schedule out for the rest of this week. Good morning, as folks are joining. Hello, happy Monday. And we'll get started in a minute. Good. Okay. Anita, we're so happy to have you with us this morning. Our first question for everybody on the 9:30 call is for you to tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be in your current role. And then we would love to hear an update about the work that you're doing, especially around family childcare.
Course. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here and to share a little bit about the work that we're doing at ALX. As you all know, we're formerly Amplify Latinx, and recently we went through, well, actually, it's been in the works since last year, but we announced it this year that now our name is We Are ALX, and ALX stands for and has always stood for Amplifying Latino Excellence. So Amplify is still part of our name. And obviously, we elevate Latino leaders and Latino business owners in this space. And my story essentially is that I'm one of the co-founders of Amplify, and so back in 2017, we launched this really cool. Conference to focus on civic engagement and to focus on making sure that we had advocates in the Latino community to elevate voices and the needs of the community. And that has grown into what amplifies today. In the beginning, we weren't so much focused on working with businesses per se, but during the pandemic, we realized that that was something that really needed to happen. And so that's how we've developed the most robust part of our work, which is championing and supporting Latino businesses across sectors in Massachusetts, including, of course, childcare businesses.
And what did you do before this work?
Oh my gosh, well, I'm a
Yeah, we
trained
got to go back
attorney.
at it. This is the best question on the 9:30 call.
So I'm an attorney by trade. I studied law and I practiced law for 20 years. And that is why, I was so inspired to do this kind of work, right? Because as an attorney, you're always advocating for people. You're always advocating for the little guy. You're always advocating for justice, right? And so for me, it was just a natural fit to become the head of this organization that is continuously advocating for the little guy, if you will, and advocates for to make sure that we have more access, more opportunity, and more equity to make Massachusetts more competitive.
And I know you also sit at many different tables in your role. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then we'd love to hear more about the family child care piece.
Of course, of course. So, well, I do. I say, like, I would have a really hard time right now telling you like all the
Like
things that
every
I
single one, right?
but essentially, I'm very lucky to have a seat at the table at different places where I get to do the same, right? Advocate for people who might not have the opportunity to do for themselves, but because we touch so many folks and so many lives, I get to advocate for the community, right? And so I think most importantly, two of the roles that I have that I really appreciate that are part of this whole advocacy piece at the state level is one that I serve on the governor's Latino Empowerment Council, and so we have the opportunity to go across around the state to hear the needs of the Latino community, and then we come back to the governor and present all the data points that we gather, which is really powerful because she listens and she wants to make sure that she incorporates into her own policy solutions the needs of the communities that we serve across the state. And then the other role that I'm really proud of that also is directly related to advocacy is that I was also appointed to serve on the newly established Commission on the Status of Latinos in Massachusetts. And I was appointed by Senate President Karen Spilka, and I was selected as the chair of that commission. So similar to the governor's council, this commission is focused on and also advocating for the needs of the Latino community across the Commonwealth. And we're tasked with providing recommendations to the legislators at the State House so that they can also implement and propose pieces of legislation that advance equity and that advance inclusion. And that, and again, everything is about making and keeping Massachusetts more competitive. So that's really our North Star, to make sure that by being inclusive and by being and by making sure that all residents have a voice, we're able to make Massachusetts more competitive.
Thank you for that. We've talked so many times about getting a seat at a table, bringing your own chair, how when you have a seat at the table, you are representing the people who you are connecting with through the work. And, as we think about, we're in the kind of coming out of a strategic plan process, and our early childhood agenda was centered on the people doing the work every day. And I know you have the opportunity to connect with so many people, so many small businesses. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you have done around family childcare?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. That is very close to my heart because, interestingly, speaking of data points, right? We also, something that I didn't mention a few seconds ago, is that we also commission research and reports so that we can have data that is coming directly from our community, or coming directly from uh, just issues that are relevant in Massachusetts. And so 3 years ago, 2 years ago, in 20, we launched it in 20, we released it in 2023, in early 2023, but we conducted the poll in the end of 2022. We conducted a poll with massing polling focused on the needs of the Latino community and issues that were important to the Latino community. And back then, obviously, we found that everything that matters to the community at large matters to the Latino community. I mean, safety, the economy, affordability, housing, healthcare, like all those major issues are important. But something that was very interesting that really drew my attention was that childcare kept on coming up over and over and over and over, not just for parents, but also the fact that there are a significant number of childcare providers who are Latinas, right? And they didn't necessarily feel that that they had the tools to grow and scale their businesses as they should, right? And we know that this is a space that can be challenging in terms of financial sustainability. So having a program that was focused on businesses, we decided to launch a vertical within our business program that was specifically dedicated to childcare providers, because we saw that there was a need, not just, again, from parents who need childcare, but also from industries who need the parents to be able to have childcare, to have a high quality childcare education so that they could go back to work. And also, of course, the childcare providers themselves who needed the tools to grow and scale their businesses. And that is how our childcare program was born. And so I'm really proud to say that we piloted it in 2023, and then we launched a full program in 2024 last year, and this year we continue to support childcare providers. And in the last couple of years, we have been able to graduate 135 childcare providers, which is pretty remarkable. Just recently, our last cohort was roughly 60 graduates, and the idea is to, again, help them see themselves as business owners because they're excellent educators. But then it's important that they also are able to build wealth for themselves, for their families, for their communities, and reinvest the money in their communities to be able to be employers, to create jobs, and to be able to open more slots for children, because we do have a crisis here and across the United States, right? So how do we ensure that we're not just opening more slots and having and giving opportunities to families to know that their kids are in a wonderful childcare setting, but also helping them build wealth for themselves and for their families.
And can you talk a little bit about what you've learned? And then I know that there are some folks that are 930 callers that have participated. So if you also want to share anything, you can either just raise your hand or come off mute. But what have you learned, Anita, as you've kind of been doing all these different cohorts?
That's an excellent question, Amy, because in the beginning, we wanted to help all the childcare providers, but we also know that the childcare providers, they're all at different levels. So what we've learned from the get-go was to assess the exact needs of the childcare providers, because not everybody, we don't have a what is it called, the one size fits all
Right.
methodology, right? The methodology that we use is we directly speak with the business owner, and we assess where they are, and then we match them with the proper providers, the advisors who will support them, whether it's with finance, taxes, and accounting, or marketing, or operations, HR, technology. So, anything and everything that they may need is taken into account so that we can support them gets to the next level. And so our focus are the family, the home-based providers, right? But there might be some who want to move to a center base, right? And so we help them also explore that opportunity, but in a way that if they're seeking access to capital, that they're equipped for that, right? Or if they want to remain as home-based family, so that they can also access capital, whether it is to expand their operations or whether they want to purchase a home, and they need that loan to purchase a home, so that they are ready, right? So that they're ready for that access to grow their businesses.
Great. And I see Harold has come. Harold, Anita, and I were recently at the Boston Business Journal lunch, and I asked if they knew each other, and they were like, "Of course we do." So, Harold, do you want to share a little bit about the experience?
Sure, thank you, Amy, and thank you, Eneida, for coming to an answer the call and talk to everybody about the wonderful program that you did with the childcare business. We are Paula and I, and Paula's Barney is a graduate from this program, and I think out of all the things that you said, Eneida, that you helped the small business to contribute. The one thing that I really liked the most was there was one session about with some bankers, with people that works in banks that really evaluate you when you're going to ask for a loan, and they gave you such a great tips on how to present yourself. What is it that they're looking for in a business to really get an approval? And it was really, really wonderful. So, and out of that, we also at the program we came up with a really good group of family childcare educators that now we're a community. So, thank you very much, Aneda, and everybody at We Are ALX or Amplify Latinx. We're still calling Amplify Latinx sometimes. So thank you very much. And I just want to say that we're going to have Lidar Rendijo on the Nantery Call in Espanol next Wednesday. No, next Wednesday, the 14th,
Yeah.
May 14th. So, and Ada will be talking about this transformer to childcare and the next step, the next cohort that is going to start in September. So thank you, Ada. And thank
Thank
you,
you,
Amy.
Harold. Now, let me tell you, Amy, it's been, and Harold knows this as well, it's become so popular that we have a wait list,
I was
right?
going to ask. I'm sure people are wondering, how do they get involved?
Yes. Well, they can email info at wearealx.org. I
Okay.
can drop it in the chat. And then we connect them. I'm just gonna do this right. Info
Thank you.
we There we go. And then we connect them to the right folks, and something else, and Harold will attest to this as well, and anybody else who's been through the program that's on the call, is that we equip them to be businesses of the 21st century, right? Because we make sure that they learn digital tools that are available to manage their business, that they learn how to leverage AI to manage their business. Because right now, I mean, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I feel like AI is like what the internet was in the mid 90s, that everyone's like, what? Like, what's going on here? but we will all be used. I mean, we already use AI. This includes, Zoom
That's right.
recording
I
right
just
now.
kicked out a note taker because we're recording it and not them. So
Ex-
yes, we
Exactly.
see. Yes,
So it's I think we all need to, including myself, right? We all need to be less
right,
afraid of AI and say, you know what, let me embrace this, just like we embrace the internet, right? Uh,
right.
mhm. No, go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Yes.
Yes. And so part of what we do is that we also give them licenses to certain software and tools that help them run their businesses more efficiently, in terms of not just the financial management, but also the business management. And all the providers, they end the program with a business plan, right? So that they are focused on that growth mindset, because at the end of the day, it's about our mindset, right? Like when we start doing something, we see ourselves here, and then we all of a sudden realize we can be here, right? And the endless opportunities. And again, this is an ongoing process. We just celebrated the graduation of this cohort that just wrapped up now, and we invited them to our annual meeting so that they feel that they're part of the community, of the ALX community, because it's not just being part of that cohort, but they're
Right.
also part of the amplified community, because it's important that they see themselves as business leaders and as advocates, as civic leaders, right? Because one thing leads to another. Because that's why you do what you do, right? I mean, we're advocating for policy solutions to close opportunity gaps. But we start as a small business owner, a micro business owner, and then from there we go on to bigger and better things that help us all, that again make Massachusetts more competitive.
Maribel added, "We are ALX. Thank you for your work and for the support for our community. We had a great training. It was great to learn and connect." Kim Lucas says, "Anita, loving the community-centered work. I may have missed this. Are you working in collaboration with the United Way or SCIU or the apprenticeship folks in Western Massachusetts?"
So yes and no. So we need to continue expanding those opportunities, because we know of them and we've communicated with them, but we need to do more. I think we have an opportunity to do even more work with them.
And it's like a little bit of like parallel play, right? Like we've seen this. I mean, this is classic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we know of all of them, but we need to make sure that we continue connecting the dots with them, because there's other opportunities, especially with the SEIU, of like having the non-traditional hours, and so that's something that we can explore in the trainings in the future. So definitely we need to make some additional connections to see what other aspects of the program we can expand.
That's great. And then Neri did put in the chat about the 9:30 call in Espanol, which is happening. Is it the 14th? Next week? Yes, there it is, 14th of May. And so that's another place where we met with Harold and Paulo last week to think about how do we think about how we can share all the resources available for folks, for opportunities, especially in different languages, and just kind of have have a way of kind of building up each other, not so we say don't duplicate but amplify, which I think fits into what
Mhm.
you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But we know that there are so many kind of initiatives that are happening. So how do we best collaborate, kind of connect people to those? Harold wondered, tell us about ALX 100.
Yes, so ALX 100. So at Amplify, we have three pillars, right? So our pillar for economic development is our business program. Our pillar for policy and advocacy are the reports and everything we do to advocate for the Latino community to have more equity in Massachusetts. And then last but not least, and really the one that's truly the origin of it all is leadership representation, because when we started doing this back in 2012, it was really about ensuring that we had more opportunities for professional growth for Latinos, and so in that spirit, we launched a campaign called ALX 100, which elevates and amplifies the contributions of 100 leaders across sectors across Massachusetts. And we celebrate that in the fall. We started doing it again in 2023 when I started at Amplify. And so we're going into our third year right now. So we just closed the nomination period for the 2025 cohort. And we will be celebrating in the fall of this year on October 17th at the JFK Presidential Library. So they're still selecting the 100 because it's a year round. People don't see the behind the scenes, but like the first
Right.
half of the year is the whole selection process and and contacting the winner so they can we can create their profiles and elevate their stories in the fall. And then in the fall is when it's like the public announcement. The Boston Globe makes the announcement during Hispanic Heritage Month, and then we host the event, and then we continue for 6 months publicly elevating the stories. And we have this beautiful sculpture, which is like a pyramid that travels across the state with the 100 leaders so that we can go to different communities to also tell their stories and to inspire the next generation. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's about lifting as we climb, right? It's not just highlighting the stories and giving them the visibility that they deserve, but also helping the next generation see themselves reflected in these leaders. So it's a really beautiful, really cool project that I'm really proud of as well. And so of course anybody here is invited to nominate these leaders. Again, right now it would have to be for 2026 because the
Right, right,
2025
right.
cohort is on its way. But stay tuned and follow us on social media. Sign up for our newsletter because we are always sharing information so that folks can be engaged.
And so there was a question in chat about if the link is the same for the 9:30 call in Espanol, and it is. But as folks were joining in, we shared this morning that over the weekend, our platform that we use to send out, we have a 8,000 person database and then about a 2,500 person list for the 9:30 call. And both Neri and I tried to send out our weekly calendar, and it did not go. So we know that folks didn't get that, which is great to see. Over 60 people joined us this morning to hear about we are ALX. And it is 6:30 p.m. So we have our 9:30 a.m., our 6:30 p.m. And then we also we have an event about breaking down the budget that we're going to have translated into Spanish and Portuguese. I don't remember. I think it's this week. So we can, and if you sign up for our list, you'll also get kind of all this information. Anita, as we're wrapping up, can you talk about kind of as you have as we sit kind of where we are right now in the world, and kind of all the connection you have with different businesses. So beyond childcare, what are you hearing from folks, that they are thinking about, that they are worried about, and what advice would you give to us as advocates about how we can continue to support those voices?
Oh wow, yes. So I mean, we're living in the last 100 days, a lot has changed, and so right now, obviously, a lot of businesses are worried about the economy. They're worried about the impact of these tariffs. I mean, so there's a lot of concern. And what I would say is that I feel very lucky that we're in Massachusetts, where we have leaders who get it, who understand, who care, and who want to make sure that we stay competitive here in Massachusetts and that we care for our people. So in terms of advocacy, my best advice is let's stay active. Let's continue to advocate and elevate our voices and speak for those who may not have the ability to do so, or and empower people who may think they don't have the ability to do so, but
Right.
they do, right? So it's almost like this sliding scale of like you might think that you're not ready, but we're going to help you get ready so that you can advocate for yourself, right? And so I just think that we have to continue telling our stories, and just sharing where the friction points are, but also where the opportunities are, so that we continue moving the needle. Because we all have the capacity to advocate for ourselves, and for our communities. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're training our business leaders, our business owners, so that they feel as equipped to advocate for themselves and for their communities. And so we continue. We continue. I mean, just never give up. That's the best advice that I can. It's hard, it's really hard sometimes, but never give up.
That is such good advice, and we are with you. We feel, I think this, especially as you talked about this, focus on advocacy and advocating for yourself. We talk all the time about what it looks like. It can look different for different people. You can do it from right where you are. You don't have to leave your job to lead or to advocate. And just to think about how many people, on this call who are connecting directly with children, families, people who are doing the work every day, and how critical it is to make sure that we are shining a light and really understanding and listening to those folks as we kind of continue thinking about policies and what we want to see our government do. I think we share your sentiment about being happy to be in Massachusetts. And speaking of Massachusetts, the House wrapped up its budget process last week. So the full House voted on the budget. Now the process turns to the Senate. So we will have an advocacy message for the Senate to send as soon as our advocacy tool is back up and going. But it's a good time to, and if you've never done it before, you can always start today, just to reach out to your senators. And then we will have our budget breakdown event. And then when the Senate happens, we'll share the budget through that same process where the Senate Ways and Means will release the budget. Then there'll be amendments. Then the full Senate will debate it. And then the full Senate will vote on it. So I've asked folks to share in some love and appreciation in chat. So I'll leave that open for a minute, but just want to thank you this morning, Anita, for joining us and for the work that you're doing every day. We so appreciate you and your leadership. And please come back anytime to the 9:30 call. We'd love to have you.
Thank you, Amy. Likewise. Wishing you all a wonderful week.
Thanks so much. And thank you, Neri, is adding the links to the chat for the breakdown of the budget, which is going to be more of a conversation. So it is this week. And to hear from you. What are you hearing about the budget? What are you worried about? How can we make sure your voice is connected to the process? All right. We will see you soon. Have a great day. Thanks
Thank
so much.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.